This is the perfect setup guitar and bass. Step 2 in setting up your guitar properly, your bridge and saddle height. I'm going to start with this Tune-o-matic style bridge first, and then I'll move on to the individual saddle and Fender tremolo style bridge. Now with the Tune-o-matic style bridge, there's a couple of things you want to look for before you start off. You want to look at the height of your tailpiece. You don't want it too low and where the strings is hitting the back of the bridge up here. And same thing when you're moving this bridge up here with saddles on them, you don't want to pull the strings into the back of that bridge. So you don't want this too low. You don't want it too high where you're not getting sufficient string force as well. You can look online to what that angle is supposed to be. Some people like to slam it as much as they can to get as much sustain as possible. Another thing you want to check for how these studs and anchors are doing. Depending on the make and model of your guitar, these anchors and studs could vary drastically in quality. Now, these don't have much gnarl on them at all, and I've seen some with just a little strip with hardly any gnarl on Gibsons, on the new Gibsons, like it's and then these here, they have a thicker gnarl, but it's of a cheap material. Now these are better. It's a stronger steel. It's a lot heavier than those pieces, and it's not going to mess. See, like these ones here, because the outside is not very good, and it's of a cheap material as well. The guitar that it was on, the wood dried out on the back here, and it pulled the anchors in because the outside was no good. And because the material is no good, at the front here, it stripped and wore out the threads. So that guitar failed me in 2 ways with these stud anchors. So that's one thing you got to look out for. There is a solution. WD Music have these Clausen vintage coarse gnarled anchors. They're of a nice, strong, thick steel, and I've gotten the longer ones, so I'm going to have to drill out my guitar for that. But they come in 2 sizes, so you can fix that problem if you find that issue. Now, your string height, your action. Most people are trying to get that lower. So you have to tune up your guitar and test it. Your test is to repeatedly play a note and play it hard, and you let it ring and you listen for fret buzz. And then you do that on every single note on the first string here, on every single fret. If you find no fret buzz, you can lower the action. Anytime you lower the action on these Tune-o-matics, you're going to have to retune before you do your next test all of the strings, because this is a fixed radius bridge. All of the strings are attached and they will detune whichever way you move this bridge. So you test and you drop and you tune and you test until you hear fret buzz. Once you find fret buzz on a bad fret, you raise up the action a little bit. You may want to detune if that's too hard to raise, because there's a lot of pressure on here. You may want to take this pressure off and retune back up, and hopefully you've eliminated that fret buzz. You eliminate that fret buzz. After you've eliminated that buzz that you wanted to find, you now test the neck for bends. You want to do 1.5 step bends all the way up the neck, and you want the bends to fully complete and come back without changing notes or dying out on you. if you do find a problem bend, make sure that it isn't your playing and it's the guitar messing up the bend, not you. If you do find one, adjust if necessary and eliminate that problem bend. Then, with the Tune-o-matics, you test and you fix the one side and you test and you set the other side. Once both sides are set, the rest of the strings should follow in line and be set. But you still test all of the other strings for any buzzing or bad bends. Once that is set, your Tune-o-matic is set. You can move on. On the Stratocaster style, tremolo style guitars, first thing you want to do in setting up your bridge is check and see if these are at their proper heights. If you bought a used guitar, the owner before might have gotten in there and fiddled around. I've seen guitars with stripped out screws in the front here, or I've seen a guitar with a completely different bridge. They've gone in and filled the old holes and made new ones with a different size bridge, and I wouldn't have known unless I've gone and looked and tested and made sure that that was proper. Now, you're going to have to release the tension on the strings to do that and take the springs off, as this bridge has to be free floating in order for you to do that job. Now, for the 6th screw Stratocasters, it's a 1/16 of an inch. So if you do not have a proper size feeler gauge, you can substitute the proper size Allen key to do this job. You may have to take the pickguard off to do this. After you adjust those to its proper height, you tune back up to the key that you're going to play the guitar in. And basically your next step is you're balancing the string tension with the spring tension in the back here to balance the back of this bridge to be parallel to the body of the guitar. If it's too high at the back, you have too much string tension. If it's too low coming into the body, you have too much spring tension. So you're going to have to take this plate off, and to tighten up the claw in the back here, you're going to have to release the string tension, because you're going to be pulling on these strings, and to move that easily, you're going to want to take the pressure off. Make sure you move this claw nice and parallel to the block here. You don't want to twist to this block. When you're releasing the tension on this claw, bringing out the bridge, the back of the bridge, you don't have to detune, because you're detuning while you're bringing this claw out. And you bring the claw out, and you watch the bridge come up, and you want to see it come nearly to where you're going to be. And then you just tune up the strings again, and that tightening of the strings should hopefully bring that bridge to where you want it to be. After you have set that bridge, now you can go on and move to your saddle heights. Now these saddles, you're going to want to make sure you get the proper size Allen key for these saddles, one that fits properly, and you move these evenly where these saddles are nice and flat and parallel to the body. You don't want any twist to these. And I've seen, even on cheap guitars, these screws are always equal. You can always count the threads, whether you're just counting from the top or bottom or whatever, or drop the entire saddle and count the number of turns, and your bridge, your saddle will be flat and parallel. Even on the cheap ones, the screws are always the same. So make sure you do that. And when you move one of these saddles drastically enough, because this is on a tremolo system where the strings and the springs in the back are balancing this bridge, if you move one of these saddles drastically enough, it could throw the tuning out on the rest of the strings. So you may want to retune the rest of the strings before you go on further with your tests. Now, with a fixed bridge bass, or bridge, where there is no tremolo, those are pretty separate, and moving one of those saddles, it shouldn't be an issue with the rest of the strings. So it's the same sort of test with the Tune-o-matic style bridge. You test, and you tune, and you test one side, and then you do the other, and you get those to where you want them. Then you take your radius tool and you place them on top of the strings, and you match the rest of the strings, whether you got to raise or lower them, to your radius tool. Tune back up and test, and look for bad bends on or buzzing on all of your frets, and that should be set. If you do not have a radius tool, you're going to have to trust and try and use your eye to match the curvature of your neck with the saddles. So you start with your eye first, tune up, and then you use your fingers then. And you rub them up and down, and your fingers, they're awesome feeler gauges. They will tell you if one of these strings are too high or too low. Adjust if necessary. Now, once you've set up all of your strings and tested everything out, you now tune up and you now play the guitar. You give her, and you look for more fret buzz. You give it a good session, and you try all sorts of different licks, and you really strum at her, and you try to find any bad spots. If you do find any bad spots, adjust if necessary. And that should be your height will be set after that. You are now move on to the intonation part of the setup. Now, having said that, with finding bad frets and what have you, I found a guitar in the garbage before, and it's like, I'll work on that. And so I worked on it, and I was setting up the guitar, the action, and I found two bad frets with, no matter how high I went, I could not eliminate the buzz on those frets. Now, if you find a fret or a couple of frets like that, you're going to have to get that fret fixed and dressed and worked at, because I didn't really. I found the guitar in the garbage. I wasn't going to spend the time to do so, and luckily enough, it was two frets that didn't really matter in the majority of all songs. I just lowered the action and remembered where those frets were, and lived and worked around those frets. And let me tell you, that guitar played like a dream. I played American guitars that didn't play as well as that. It was a fantastic player, except for those two frets. So it's something you're going to want to look out for. Like I said, next steps intonation. You can watch my video on that, and watch my other videos on how to set up the rest of the guitar. Thanks for watching. Please like and share this video.